myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on that.
Good evening and welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. It is Friday night. It is 3 Amigos night plus Keith Patterson. Hi lads, how you doing? What a week, What a weekend, Great to see me cult t-shirt has come through, so big thank you to John from QTech for sending that. And Keith's got his, you've got two cults at the top.
Pair of cults, proper pair of cults.
Yeah, proper pair of cults. And we've just got to say this, and I've got to say thank you to all the people who've contributed over the last 12 months. Thank you to all of you who have subscribed. Thank you to everybody who's watched, and thank you to all the sponsors, because we have hit 40,000 subscribers. 40.
Fantastic.
That is unbelievable. Unbelievable. Thanks for subscribing, everybody. It is a remarkable amount of subscribers to have. And again, like I said on Twitter, I'm very, very humbled that everybody has bought into this and thoroughly enjoyed it. And, it's been a pleasure. So, and of course, Friday night has proved to be the most popular show, and long may it continue. It certainly will. A lot of people are saying we'll try to get through as much as we can in the chat as possible. It's going to be very difficult, I'm afraid. Whilst we're on with announcements, we did promise you this week that Steve Hasty would try and tot up what has actually come in for over the last 12 months from NUFC Matters through the various things that we've done for the food bank. So, Steve, over to you.
Yeah, my CSE Grade 2 has come in handy. £4,951.50
Wow.
has been donated to the food bank by
Absolutely
people
brilliant.
involved with NUFC Matters. Whether, as you say, donations, the T-shirts that have gone for raffle. We've had sponsors who have made some great donations themselves. We've even had lads who haven't been successful on the auction, who have just donated anyway, and that's been a continual theme throughout the year, Steve. And with no matches at St James's Park, although we will be back, we are coming back. We will be on Strawberry Place come hell or high water for the Sheffield United game. I've spoken to Bill Corcoran. We will be there, even if the council don't give us the appropriate documentation in time, because they've used every excuse in the book, whether it be Purda or whatever, due to elections. But we will be there. So if you're one of the lucky ballot winners of the approximately 10,000 people who will be in St James's Park, you can always drop in, say hello to us, socially distance, of course, and we'll accept money that's thrown at us rather than just dropped in the box or handed into us. But remarkable, Steve, absolutely fantastic. £4,951.50. And I also have to add, Steve, that not a penny of that comes across our desks. Not a penny of that comes to us.
Yeah.
That money gets dropped into an account. All the T-shirt money, everything, it gets dropped in, and it's all allocated, fully audited. It works like a shop. So I'm not spending the money on haircuts, obviously, as you can tell, and I'm not spending on anything else. So just a huge big thank you to everybody. And that's the entire team.
If only other organisations would audit themselves, Steve, life would be a lot easier. But moving swiftly on. The one thing I can say, guys, who are watching, and girls, is that Julie Baker's T-shirt, Troll of the Week, the cat, is on my Twitter, and it finishes tonight. It's currently at £50. If that £50 is paid, or over £50 is paid, we'll hit the £5,000 mark tonight for the food bank. So let's do it. At Steve Wraith on Twitter, please bid. That T-shirt's a one-off. It's in a nice dark blue. We've never done a dark blue T-shirt before. So get your Troll of the Week cat T-shirt. It's a one-off. And huge thanks to John from qtechshop.co.uk, who has been involved in all of this from day one. He's come up with some cracking ideas. He invented the virtual bucket idea. He ran it past Keith and Steve and a few other people from the food bank who said it was a great idea. He's got that on the go now, which of course is running tonight. So please donate to that tonight. NUFC fansfoodbank.co.uk. But yeah, John, he's a genius. He does fantastic work. He's been with us from day one as well, since we migrated from Instagram onto YouTube. And John's been a massive help and a massive asset. And a lot of that money is down to John's generosity as well. He's donated prizes week in, week out. He's done another one tonight, which we'll talk about a little bit later. He's done 2 tonight. We've got our usual competition later on tonight, but he's also donated another one for Steve Hasty, which we'll do a little bit later in the show. Steve will talk about that a little bit later. Tonight, because it's been such a monumental 48 hours with Newcastle United, with the HMRC case now collapsing, and with Mike Ashley coming out with his short but sweet but effective statement, it was only right, I thought, to get somebody else on the show to share his opinion. And it's a big welcome to the show, the Three Amigos debut, Liam Kennedy.
Right.
And I think it's only right. I think it's only right that he sits next to his best mate, Keith Patterson. So there we go. So Liam, welcome to the show. It's great to have you on, and you've got an hour with us tonight. So I just really want to start with Keith. Keith, you've took some stick, mate. You've been on this show for the last 5 or 6 weeks. We had you on a record-breaking show a few months back as well. You've been in conversations with us for the last for the last 6 or 7 months. You've known Steve Hasty for years, and you've built up a wonderful friendship with Liam. How are you feeling, mate, after all of that broke last night?
I knew it was breaking, and I was getting stick for not knowing it was breaking, but it was just, I don't know, it was just a lot of relief. It's I've been pushing for this since October. I got a call the day off NCSL's QC, Robert O'Donoghue, and he just said, if you'd listen in October, you'd be owned by the Saudis now. And for him to say that to me was a mammoth statement. I think he's the best in the country, and he's certainly been good for us. But it's been a push. I didn't think we'd ever get this takeover. When I read what Amanda said back in the day last summer, what she said was, will you come forward? She said, it's up to you fans. If you want this, you need to show us that you're bothered. And she was talking to people like us who's watching this. And if I wasn't here tonight, I'd be sat looking in on you three. And what Amanda said was we had to stand up and be counted. And that conversation took place between me and a lad I used to play football with, Peter Baker. And it was just, you should do a letter. And that was just after Amanda said it. And I wrote a letter on the 5th of August last year. And I know we've had some fun on here called as Mystic Mag for making correct presentations of football results, which have been uncanny. But if you read the letter, which I think Liam's got it, he's got an article coming out tomorrow about this. Because when I showed it to Liam at the start, he said, do you think all this will come true? And I said, I'm certain it will. And all them clubs, today, me and Liam had the letter out, and Liam said, he was like ticking them off. Liam said, that's happened. And I really believe in my heart of hearts that Newcastle, for the first time, have got the ball in this whole process. I think it's the first time that we control play. And I know some of the evidence. I know some of the evidence that Robert O'Donoghue says will be extremely difficult to defend. And we've got the benefit of a letter off the EPL, which I've got, which, if you like, answered one of those points. And he said, if that's the best they're going to do to defend that point, Keith, they're knackered. So it's Amanda's call at the start saying, come on, stand up. It's a conversation with people, where I live, saying, you should do a letter, and obviously know what I've done for a living. And from then on, it's just been a journey, but the journey's been helped. 4 people's help is sat on here and extras now, you know what I mean? I feel in good company. And, the fact we've been christened a cult just for trying to get a takeover. You've got to ask yourself what kind of people would do that. But some of the things I've had, this week and before are uncanny, you know what I mean? People say, I haven't written to the CMA, Competitions and Markets Authority. And there's a solicitor online today saying I'm checking with the Competition and Markets Authority to see whether there's been any application put in against the Premier League. Well, he needs to ring me because I've got an email going into them and I've got 2 messages coming out. So why do people distrust you And why do they want this not to happen so much? But I think the good thing about this is that we've united the whole fan base and shown up who wants to take over. And what I believe is that tiny, tiny percentage of people that don't want it stick out like beacons. And I think what we need to do now on this show tonight, I want to focus on the 99% who support us, because, you know, I got a message tonight before I came on show of Declan Donnelly, and I think he's watching tonight. And he said, you're talking about Ant and Dick messaging me to tell us they're going to watch us tonight. And I'm thinking, wow, there's something the matter here. This is back to front. Normally I watch them. And he said, I'm going to watch you for the match. And you're trying to answer like a normal bloke, but you're thinking, what's happening? Like, Ant and Dick's going to watch NUFC matters because they're that focused on getting this takeover. And I got two messages, which obviously I'll respect and keep private, but it was just, what you've done is amazing, and sticking with it, and we'll get this takeover and what it means to them. And you just think to yourself, you know, they're just normal fans like me and you. They might be superstars, they might be multi-millionaires, but they are just people like us that cannot get justification, they cannot get a legitimate takeover, which should happen. But what I can see tonight, and I if I get the chance, I'll take you through what will happen in the next couple of weeks and what will happen, timelines, where fans can go online to see the first court hearings and things. We can cover all that. But the main thing is to say to you is, in the scenario of having a football, it's the first time that Newcastle's ever had the foot on the ball and controlled it. And people flap on Twitter about timelines. The time ticks in our favour now. It's the first time ever when the clock ticks, it's ticking closer to dates when they've got to show documents that they can't show. And I'll be amazed if they get through the full case. I'll be amazed if this goes to court. And if they do, it's a car crash. And you'll never defend a case that where your Prime Minister comes out and publicly says there's a cartelling operation. It's physically impossible. If there's a cartel and the PM says that, then all we've got to do is backtrack from the PM says there's a cartel. We're going to go back to that, to where the cartel impacted the takeover of Newcastle United. What did they do that stopped this takeover? And we've got evidence. I've got evidence in black and white, which I have and I've passed through, which will win cases. The disclosure will bring more silver bullets, and this will be a mess. This will be a mess on the floor. And you people who are looking for an explosion, if they let this run right the way through, it will be. Because there's no way what happened on our TV screens and what happened in British football can go out now and be real and be legitimate, because we all know it wasn't. And when you've got fans of Man United and Liverpool and Chelsea going against their clubs, you can see why Newcastle fans, the dreamers, the guys who don't know much, the guys who hallucinate that we should be a big club, you can see why we're angry. But we've got the backing of football on our side now. We haven't just got a couple. And at long last, it's been sort of 6 months of trying. We've now got a body which won't get slowed down in court, and we've got a fund that's unstoppable. Money's not going to be an issue, and we've got evidence. And I remember one reporter said, the Premier League have an artillery on their side, and Mike Ashley has a pistol. Mike Ashley's got an atom bomb and a nuclear bomb, and they're called evidence. And it'll be evidence that wins this case. And I've seen evidence that will win the case already, but there's a lot more to come.
Wonderful stuff. Liam, to be on the forefront of this is something which is, it can be a poison chalice. It can also be great when things, finally fall into place. And it had that feeling last night, not one, but two announcements back to back quite quickly from the club. Whenever Mike Ashley speaks, it's usually something short but sweet and effective. And it just had that whole relief feeling last night that we finally seem to be getting somewhere. Was that how you felt? And when you got a chance to press the button on some of the stuff that you'd been writing up a week earlier?
I've got to say before I come on to that, I'm feeling a little bit nervous now. There's Geordie Showbiz royalty watching this. I'm feeling a bit nervous.
He's only watching because he's going to do a for copyright for that photograph at the beginning. That's all.
Yeah. Liam, they're my mates, man. They're my mates.
I know that, and people wouldn't believe it, would they, Keith? Madness.
No, I don't know anybody. I just wrote one letter, remember?
You did. And it was a rubbish one as well. We read it today. I think it was a massive day yesterday. It really was. I think, like you said, when Mike Ashley comes out and speaks, it's very rare, but he has come out and spoken, and it's had a huge impact. The words, the particular, the things that he said with regards, obviously, people, dark arts at play, all that kind of thing. It was quite incendiary, really. It was quite an incredible few sentences. But then for us to be able to get the stuff out there that we've been sitting on for weeks, that's probably been one of the hardest couple of weeks, hasn't it, Keith, really? That we've had stuff that was teed up, that we were ready to go, and there were certain reasons as to why we couldn't do that. I've got to say, for me, there's been a massive sort of relief this week, and I think Keith will probably feel that much more than myself, but I've kind of walked hand in hand with Keith through this journey, and it's been really difficult seeing the amount of criticism that he's taken. People saying he knows now, people saying he doesn't. He's not spoken to them. He's been leading people up the garden path, and it was really, really good to be able to sit and not just put that story across about the huge, massive takeover developments, but also be able to put the personal side to it and do the Q&A that we put out not long after with Keith, and just put it from his side, because the bloke's had death threats. The bloke's had people coming outside of his house and taking pictures and all sorts. He's had people targeting him online. He's had people, he's had all sorts. He's had people trying to blackmail him. This is all over somebody trying to get the best for everybody. The bloke's put his head above the parapet. He's put his money where his mouth is, and he's really fought for something that we all want. Ultimately, it's what we all want. And I thought everybody wanted the same. I get that there's some people out there that really don't want it on political grounds, etc., things like that genuinely just don't want Saudis anywhere near Newcastle United. And I also get that. But I didn't really imagine there would be so many people who would go at an individual. Yes, he's brash. He'll say what he wants on social media. You have a go at Keith, he'll have a go back. That's just the man that he is. But that's why he's managed to get this in the position that he's in, that the case is in. He pushed this and thrust an anti-competition case in the face of Mike Ashley and his people, and they've taken it on lock, stock and barrel. And for that, I don't know how you can criticise a man who's gone from, just an idea to the position that we find ourselves in now, where Mike Ashley is using this as a loaded gun, the case that NCSL put together, the arguments that are put together. And I don't want to go too much into that because Keith will be able to explain much more in depth than what I will be able to. But I felt really like a real weight off my shoulders this week, being able to just say, look, I said join the dots back in October, and the smart people out there got it. And they worked out that, yes, I think the club might be walking hand in hand with Keith here. But there's some dafties out there didn't, and they're still doubting it. But that's the truth. We said join the dots. Join the dots was the connection between the football club, getting the okay from the buyers and seller, and walking hand in hand and pushing through an anti-competition case. Keith and his legal people, Robert O'Donoghue, and everybody else involved, Gordon, everybody presented this case to the club, and the club have taken it lock, stock and barrel. So all the doubters out there who still try and doubt, I've had loads on today. I'm probably a little bit wrong. Like today, I found myself replying to the doubters more than the positives. There's so many positive people out there that the doubters, I still feel like I need to stick up for it and answer it. But the truth is there. The facts are there. You don't have to believe it if you don't want to. But it's the facts and it's the truth. And the truth will continue to keep coming out because this man has put his head above the parapet, money where his mouth is, and fought for this deal that we all want. Well, I thought we all wanted, apart from this bizarre lot who really have got a personal agenda against people like everybody on this panel. I'll say everybody on this panel has taken stick from these idiots online who just take it upon themselves to be Mr. Negative constantly and have a go at every single one of it. Get personal. Eventually, we've all started blocking these people, and I think everybody's lives is a little bit better for it. But in particular, nobody on this panel deserves any stick for anything they've done because they've all fought for this deal. And
Exactly.
they're all trying to get a better future for everybody in Newcastle United. And even these people won't realise it's going to be a better future for them. But they soon will if the takeover goes through.
Wonderful
Well
stuff.
said.
Yeah, Steve Hasty rant there, and
Well
over
done.
to Steve Hasty for a rant.
You cannot follow that, can you? You cannot follow that. I was going to start with a question. Actually, I was going to ask Keith. Keith, you've done all this work, but there must have been people helping you behind the scenes because you've taken on such a workload. And right at the very beginning, you had help, you had assistants, you had people that you could converse with and you could speak to. You must be pleased at the support you've had from various individuals. Is there anything you want to say about those people? Because I think you know, at the end of the day, you've taken the weight of everything on your shoulders. But I know that there were people who helped you. I was just interested in that.
I think the person who got us into it, lad from Bishop Auckland called Peter Baker. I used to play football with him, and he was a lot younger than me. And I used to be a dirty sod, and he was just a young kid. He used to dance around, so I used to look after him. And he come to us and said, "Have you seen what they've done? I've seen what Amanda's saying." And it was him who got us to do that letter. And he's been there from start to finish, and still there now. He's just Steve Rafe knows him. I mean, he's Steve said he's just a solid lad.
Top lad.
And he's not somebody who you know, he's not out to make a name for himself. And at the start, when he did it, I was out one night and it was my brothers and somebody come in with this letter off Facebook. And when I read it, it was my letter. And I phoned Peter. I said, "You said you weren't going to put my name on." So I got to take my name off because I didn't want to be known. And I never did through this. I never wanted to do it. And Peter led the War Fund campaign. And I've said it before, and I'll say it on record tonight, without any embarrassment, that if the fans had got behind that, I think we'd have been in PCP ownership now, because all that was no different to collections you hear and see for different purposes, whether you're buying a percentage of the club or you're trying to take a legal action on. And it's difficult how it happens. It's difficult how it comes. And in hindsight, I think we all could say that people would have done things different. But my head wasn't above the parapet then. The only person's name on that was Gordon. And Gordon had written the Masters the day after me. And he, if you like, was the front of that campaign, and it didn't work. So Peter's been there. He's been there working this week. We've sent nearly 2 gigabytes of evidence down to the legal team to help with the case. The people that's been there outside of the legal action includes a QS who I respect doesn't want to be named, but that lad spent nearly 4,000 quid's worth of his own money producing software, which when you go on it basically it'll give a timeline of what happened. It'll show you what was happening through June and when Gary Hoffman joined the club, and it'll show it, and then it'll show what came out at that time, and it'll show you what Richard Keys was saying about his relationship with him, and then you'll touch a button and it'll show you references to documents about what he was doing at Northern Rock, and his dislike for Newcastle, and the whole picture comes through in the timeline. And then what you do is when you touch it, it hyperlinks information. And he's worked on competition actions. He's a top guy, lives in London, and he's worked for us throughout. And there's been Gordon. And NCSL is, I just need to make sure it's just me and Gordon. But Peter and the other chap have been working. And then Peter's recruited a team himself. He's had a team of volunteers. He's had a couple of lads in Newcastle. He's had a couple of lads in Durham of late, helping him. So there's been 4 or 5 different volunteers, but that's just what Peter does. We don't see it. But without them, I wouldn't have done it. If I hadn't met Gordon, bear in mind, I've never met Gordon yet. I've only spoken to Gordon online. I've never ever met the lad. But we formed a company called Newcastle Consortium Supporters Limited, and we've fought this fight on great trust. And there's been days when we've been going into meetings of a legal nature, and for example, only I got invited in and Gordon didn't. We didn't know what. And I said to Gordon, "How do you feel?" And I said, "If you want us to pull out, I'll do it." "What do you feel?" He says, "No, I trust you. Just go in and do it and do your best." And then he's waiting outside, not of a room, but he's waiting online at home. And he doesn't know what's being said and what's being done. And at that time, we just decided what we had to do was divide ourselves up. And at that time, I had to front it. And then Gordon run all the back team. And he's back there now. He took a job It just breaks me. 1,100 people watching this at the minute. It's surreal that 1,100 people coming on here tonight to watch it, and there'll be 10,000 by the time the weekend's over. It's just amazing how the fans are jumping to this and how much they want it like we do. But Gordon, without you, son, I wouldn't have done it. And if I hadn't met you, there's been some dark times where we've talked for 2 and 3 hours. And when you came back 2 weeks ago, the first thing you gulped at was how much stick I was getting and how much crap was coming my way. And last night, somebody suggested there was a letter whereby the club were going to give me 50,000 quid when this was over with. I tell you what, I bet my bank manager would like to see it, because it just doesn't exist. That letter doesn't exist. It's just a born liar, putting crap out for likes and clickbait. But Gordon came out from who he was. I think Gordon's called North Pole on Twitter, so if you see him, that's who he is. And Gordon came out and said, I'm Gordon Steen, director of NCSL, and that's a load of lies, and that letter doesn't exist. And the reason it doesn't exist is because Gordon paid all the legal fees for all the solicitors. And I did the QC, and I did all the marketing costs. And people say I've only written a letter, and a letter costs 50 quid. Maybe it does, if you've kicked the cat. But when you get a competition action of a top QC, the sums are bigger. But without you, Gordon, I wouldn't have started this, and I wouldn't have stayed there. So thanks for what you've done. Thanks for everything. And thanks, Peter, and the other chap who remains nameless, but is our QS. Outside of that, I've had great help of lawyers, Newcastle and London. I've had great encouragement, got a personal message, and I've spoke and discussed and chatted with these people, but I got a lovely message of Nick DeMarco. He messages in his own private right and just said to us, Keith, this is me talking to you as a football fan. He's a massive QPR fan. And he just said to us, what you're doing is brilliant. And take me out of you, I'm behind you all the way. And the next message, you get the message saying, well, you don't know him and you make it up. But it's the power is actually knowing what you know. And, Anton Deck messaged one day and that was all through Amanda Staveley. She got them to get in touch with us. And that's the camaraderie we're building up, because we all want it so bad that if somebody on our side sees somebody that's doing good, they all get behind and rally behind. And what Amanda said is to talk to this fella, talk this. And when you get that kind of backing, 2 messages off Deck just before I come on, and I can't tell you how much it motivates you. And it's irrelevant that they come to me, because I could be one of, there's 1,100 on here. Any you 1,100 would do what I would do. You'd all have done exactly the same I'd done if I'd say some spare money to do it, or more so the experience of competition law, and you knew what Amanda was saying about Spurs and Liverpool and Tottenham and Man City and Man United. If you saw what she said, she was talking a layman's language that was saying to me, shit, this is anti-competitive, this is what I've been working in for years in my working life. And what Amanda's saying is, if that's true, that some people in the marketplace are stopping other people from coming in and competing, you've got to make your mind up, Keith. Do you want to do it? Not really. Have you got the time? No. Do you fancy doing it? Not really. Will you do it? Maybe. And then you've got people like Peter Baker saying, oh, so just do us a letter, and I promise you, your name won't go on it. And then the next thing is, I'm sat here on the TV show, and I'm thinking, how was it cool? There's one guy I want to mention tonight. He's sat this side here is Liam Kennedy. He's been a brick. He doesn't realise, he sits next to press who aren't Newcastle supporters, and he is. And if you ever want to get a reporter that tells the truth, look no further than the Shields Gazette, because I fear for them, but I fear they're like Newcastle. I feel the Shields Gazette like Newcastle, in the 80s when we had a good player and you knew he was going to Liverpool and Man United. I can't imagine at the end of this that Liam Kennedy won't end up with a national job. And I'm not trying to dissuade him from playing his trade at his local club. I just can't. I've looked and I've seen national people and I've seen what they do. And this guy bleeds Newcastle. And this fella held a massive story that made television. I said it would make television. And he held it for 10 days. And he put his football support ahead of his job. Not that he sold his job down. He knew that we needed legal permission to do it. And he knew it would cause us problems if it went out. But not once did he ring up and say, get it out. Oh, do you realise? And there was no pressure, bosses on backs or anything. And the more crap I got on Twitter, the more he just laughed it off. And he did your show on Tuesday night and laughed that off. But Liam Kennedy is not just a friend. And I only met him on this journey, but he'll be a friend for life. And he's just one of them people. You'll meet them once in a lifetime, and you'll think he's got my back. And in this journey, there was a time when Gordon went to work and the lads are all backed away because we'd more or less done what evidence until the ESL started. We'd more or less got a lot of evidence bundled, and the lads took a bit of a back seat. But the guy that rang us morning, day and night was Liam Kennedy, 2-3 times a day. And, I probably saw more than his missus. And, we don't live local, but we meet up, and the last meet was 6 hours. And this is a supporter, but a reporter as well, who dies for your football club. So, I might be selling myself here, but if you never think that he gets paid when you subscribe to his newspaper, all I'll say is if you love Newcastle, that's where your next few quid want to go to support him, because the kid's a diamond.
I want to ask you about Ben Jacobs. There's a few people in the chat asking, before I come to Mitch, who's some people have quite rightly pointed out hasn't had anything to say for 32 minutes, but he's just enjoying it.
Makes a change. I'm enjoying the pint. It's fine, man. It's totally fine.
Ben Jacobs has obviously come out with something which dampened people's enthusiasm yesterday. What's your response to that then, Keith?
I think it's simple. It's very simple. I mean, Ben Jacobs has been messaging his dispatches at legal levels, whereby the first thing Ben Jacobs put out was a tweet where he revealed things in the letter, the confidential letter that I got off the club. So the EPL wrote to me in a confidential manner, and they revealed things about their case with Newcastle United. That caused me great concern, because the letter told me that I couldn't take action until Newcastle's case was run. Well, I didn't know Newcastle run the case. So I immediately contacted the club and said, I'm trying to take an action against the EPL, and they say I can't. Is it true you're running a case? And they said, how the hell do you know that? And I said, I'll send you a letter up to prove it. So I did that, and then that made television as well. Ben Jacobs was the guy who tweeted that. And then the only way he could ever have tweeted that was by having information by the EPL. It's the only way. There's no other way, because nobody had seen my letter, and he could only have got it from the EPL. Okay? So immediately our legal team knew that he was a mole or a plant by the EPL. And since then, he seems like a nice lad. Since then, I watch him, and he backs 3 horses in every race, and sometimes backs a couple more. And in a 3-horse race, he sometimes backs all 3 horses. So he tells a story, and he bounces onto the merits of the Newcastle case, and then he jumps onto the EPL thing, and then says this, and this could happen. And when one of them happens, he's got it right, because he said all 3 things. And he does it at such a speed and such a pace, I guess some people get lost off and think it's credible. But there's a thing about people, about human beings, they always revert back to type. And we creatures of habit. And if you know anybody or you doubt anybody, watch them and wait, and you'll always see them go to who they are. So with Ben, he's done some great podcasts with Steve, and I listened to them. I thought they were good. And I thought there was a lot of chat about nothing, if you know what I mean. There was no specific, that's going to happen then. But I thought they were credible. I enjoyed them. I thought it was good. But then when all comes to show, he's come up and he's turned around and said things this week. He said things yesterday, which are just rubbish. I mean, he's saying things about Mike Ashley's case on documents I've seen. He's saying things about his case on documents I've given the club, and I could, I can put them up. So really, I have a saying like, if you've got nothing to say, shut up. That's what I think. And I just think that there's certain reporters are going to put certain stories out at the moment. They're gonna look after them, and he will be pro EPL at the moment. And some of the things he's saying about Ashley, about uncertainty and desperation, this must mean that what a load of garbage. I'm sorry, I don't mean to bring you down, and I know that I won't be on your Christmas list. I know you're not a lover of me, but there's a few you can join if you want. But in reality, Mike Ashley's case is dynamite. And nobody can tell me Mike Ashley's got a great legal team. He hasn't got one. EPL. They haven't got a competition legal case teed up. They didn't know they were getting the competition action against them from the club until 21st of the month. So how have they got a good team? they'll be running around like rats up a drain pipe. They've got Man City to sort out. They've got an arbitration that's sit with a separate legal team. Newcastle have 2 sets of lawyers. They have lawyers on the arbitration and the club sale, and have separate lawyers on the competition action. The separate lawyers for Newcastle have been working on this competition action since last year. Now, if you're trying to tell me that all of a sudden the EPL have muscled together a great competition team, you can't do that. You obviously don't understand competition law. You can't muscle together a good team since the 21st of the month. 21st, it's physically impossible. You can get somebody who's free, and you can start looking at a case. But I'll tell you what, they won't even start assessing what's coming at them yet.
You're going to get asked another question here, and look, while you're getting everything out there, Yano says, Keith, what are your thoughts on Alex from NUFC and his legal expert Youssef, who are saying that this does not affect the takeover?
My eyes is bad. Is that useless? Was it?
Youssef, mate. Youssef.
All right. Oh, so it was useless. What do I say? Is he a competition expert? If he's not, I won't know him. I'm not here to pull people down, but I haven't read his stuff, but I've had calls today saying this has happened, that's happened, and you've got to ask what people are after. I've spoken to Alex. He's a good lad, but I don't know what his main goal in life is. His main goal might be, for example, to get 1% in Newcastle. I'm not interested in 10% Newcastle. I'm not interested in shares or anything. All I'm interested in is seeing the takeover, going back in the stand with my jeans on and the top on, and singing, and just having a beer before the game, and just being a football fan. That's all I'm interested in. If people have aspirations beyond that, then I admire them and I respect them. But to put a legal guy on a platform and talk about competition law is at best misleading and at worst naively stupid, because it's like putting somebody on who's a budgerigar specialist to talk about horses. They know nothing about horses. And people don't know anything about competition law unless they work in competition. And all these, this one's a lawyer and that one's a lawyer. And they're doing conveyancing, selling houses, or they're doing personal injuries. And here they are giving advice on competition. If you want to get advice on competition, go and talk to a QC, but go to the top ones, go top end, go Robert O'Donoghue level and talk to them. And you'll find that when Robert O'Donoghue gives counsel advice that this case is powerful, then you can run a case on it. That's what people are paid to do. And what Robert O'Donoghue said today was that that it was amazing that the case we gave the club has been looked at. It's been changed, completely changed. It's come back to our case again. So it's that case that they've just put through this week. It mirrors what we were doing, and we always knew if we had 6-7 points that 4 or 5 would cause major problems. And when people say there's a lot of doubt, will Piff by Man United? Will this last till 3 years? How will they win it? If we've got time tonight, I'll go through one of the points that we'll win on and why we'll win it. But these people, if these solicitors were as good as they say, they wouldn't be working in Stockton now. They wouldn't be working in Newcastle. They'd be down in London earning the big bucks, and they'd be doing competition law. And their hourly rate, I would think, will be under £200 an hour. Top competition QC is £1,500 an hour, and there's a reason.
Look, yeah, that's great stuff. Look, I'm going to give a shout out to sponsors. 1,232 people watching live tonight, which is amazing. Big thank you to everybody. As I've always said on this show, we never, ever, ever take it for granted. Big shout out to skipsandbins.com, who straight away, as they've come in this month, have donated £500 to the food bank. Wow, amazing. Thank you very much. Telephone 0800 2545 253. Email enquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website is www.skipsandbins.com. Easy contract, free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. And there he is. We might just call that Big Bod the Bee, because Bod deserves some kind of recognition. So there he is, Bod the Bee there. No offence, Bod. And qtechshop.co.uk, who have been with us for months and months and months. A big shout out to them as well. Huge thank you to Spider VPN, been with us for the last 4 months as a main sponsor. for your internet security. Get on to Nathan and Gareth down there. Great lads. And honestly, big thank you to you lads as well for your support, and the Jab Signature, who've got the new stuff coming out very, very soon. Everyone's saying, where can I get a cult t-shirt? NUFCmatters.com. Get yourself onto there. Limited edition made. We have got other t-shirts on the go as well. And for those people who have been trolling me and Steve Hasty and Keith on a regular basis, who've now decided to write to the club and say, you shouldn't be using this badge, you shouldn't be using that badge, don't worry, we've already spoken to the club about that. And John is very professional in everything that he does. So tell tales all you want, but when you're raising £5,000 for the food bank like we have, instead of getting your begging bowl out and DMing innocent people for money, then and asking them for money when you've got other problems, honestly, it just does me head in. It really does. The trolls have really annoyed me. They've annoyed me. They've annoyed me this week, picking on Steve Hasty in particular. Steve's nothing but a credible man. He's somebody who I hold in high esteem. He's got incredible integrity, and that guy has done so much for the food bank, and he deserves a round of applause from everybody. Really, up and down that outside Barrack Road, outside St James's Park. When we get the opportunity, people should go and shake his hand, because him, Bill Corcoran, they stand there with Colin Whittle week in, week out, hailstone, snow, whatever it is. And honestly, the people are desperate for food, and it's going to get worse. Even though the pandemic might be shifting, it's going to get worse. And, thanks to QTech for setting that up. This initiative, it's more money coming in. But Steve announced it before, £4,951 raised by this show in 12 months through T-shirts by QTech Shop and various things. Amazing. And I don't want you to comment, Steve, because, I realise that, you're going to have to take this further because it's slander and defamation of character. But I can speak up for you, Steve. And I think it's a damn disgrace what those trolls have been doing this week. And, fair play to anything. Whatever happens to them is well deserved, and I mean legally, and that's what should happen, because these people have been causing nothing but trouble for the last 12 months. They've been getting away with it. It's going to stop now, and good luck to you, Steve, with what you've got planned for them legally. Mitch, give you an opportunity now to have a chat about what's happened this week, mate. 45 minutes in.
Great, mate. I just had a message off me, Craig, who I mentioned on the Retro Show a couple of weeks ago. He says it's the best 45 minutes he's ever seen from me. Do you know what? The last sort of 6 months or so has been an interesting part of this journey. Feeding in off the energy that Keith brings, being able to stretch the networks that particularly Steve and I have made over the last couple of years. And more to bring stuff in that even Keith wasn't aware of, and it's surprising how when you start bouncing stuff around between Keith and Liam, you don't have to give them much to let them join the dots, as it were. They're very good at reading between the lines once you drop something in. I made a very unsubtle hint as to what might be happening a few weeks ago when I was saying, of all the things that we've ever done about Ashley out and raising protests and this, that, and the other, it's the first time somebody like Keith's come along and held the door open and said, "Can I help you out? Can we help you get out?" rather than force anything. And I think a point worth making, because it's something else that people have been raising, that Ashley's in it for this, he's in it for the compensation. He is. There's none of us sat here or under any impression that he's suddenly become some sort of altruistic, philanthropic person who wants the best for Newcastle United and the fans. What he wants is out of Newcastle United. What he wants is the club sold. He wants the money in his pocket, because this is the deal that will net him the most. This is the deal that should have gone through in a time in COVID when the high street has been absolutely decimated. How much of his tacky empire could he have built further with that 300 million sitting in his back pocket ready to spend? And he'll be fizzing. He'll be absolutely fizzing, because that's the focus of his business. And if anybody doubts about where the focus of his business is, look at the data that's been released and talked about this week. Zero money in from the owner over the last 10 years and 7 million in 10 years in capex. That's it. Bottom of the tables, but top of the balance sheet leagues. That's where we are. It's a bloody miracle we're still in the Premiership in many ways, because you look at people around Wigan and the kind of input they've had. Look at what Leeds has put in, bearing in mind. And again, we're not speculating on this. We know their owner, round about the February time, was very ready to sell. And he was dropping the sale price daily. And the people he was talking to were backing off further because of COVID and because of uncertainties. And it's and then he's turned around and still put money in to put Leeds where they are. And we're flapping around with zero input from the owner financially over 10 years and 7 million in capex. It's ridiculous. So I'm under no illusion, and nobody here is under any illusion that Mike Ashley wants his money and feels that he wants compensated for the business opportunities lost and there more. And I think he's probably entitled to feel that way too. So I think that's got to be cleared up, that nobody suddenly thinks he's some sort of like charitable individual that really wants the best for everything. His statement's quite strong, because the statement is all regarding what's gone on in the EPL and the cartel therein. That's what that statement's about, and it's to back up everything he's doing on multiple fronts now. He's well and truly parked his tanks on the EPL's lawn. That's something he's very, very good at doing in business, and he's done it in football with the Rangers saga. He doesn't mind a fight. He doesn't shy away from it, and he doesn't lose many either. And I think that's the key here. So yeah, but it's been a real fascinating time bouncing stuff around and reaching out through networks and helping these guys put stuff together by testing some of the networks we've had, and we've had some very interesting feedback from some very interesting places. So that's been fascinating. And then the other supporting thing that's happened this week, obviously, is the HMRC case being dropped, and there's another uncertainty gone from any takeover. There's nothing you have to factor into the balance sheet now, because that was potentially £20 million worth of fine if it had gone the way other HMRC cases have gone against clubs. Part of me wonders, do I have Brexit to thank for that? Because it was a Europe-wide investigation involving, I think, 48 players, 8 agents, and 12 clubs in France, Belgium, and England. And suddenly, with Brexit and all of the complications of that, that's suddenly a very, very, very complicated thing to try and work out. And one wonders, is the HMRC just looked at it and gone, I can't be bothered with running this anymore. There's not enough evidence to push it, and it's going to get more complicated the further we dig. Either way, it's a very helpful thing, because there's one more uncertainty taken away from when you're sitting down putting a deal together with Mike Ashley to say, right, we don't have to factor in 20 million to HMRC at some stage in the future. So it's been a rather monumental week, and it's been fascinating to wake up to 20 million messages most mornings.
Liam, I know I've only got you for about 10 more minutes, because you've got to crack on and do your match stuff for tonight's game against Leicester City. But yeah, I mean, you've listened to what the lads have had to say. You've got to know Steve Hasty and Neil Mitchell, quite well. Me and you already knew each other. But yeah, I mean, it's just been great to see people pulling together. And like a lot of people have said, look, no matter what happens, Andrei's come on there from Bulgaria. He's obviously our Toon Stato. He's going to be talking about Keith tonight on Bulgarian television, and saying what he did. And I think he sums up what a lot of people think, that people are being realistic here. Something could still happen. The takeover might. We don't really know what's going to happen in the grand scheme of things. The takeover might collapse. It could turn out that PIF haven't got the money. Do you know what I mean? So I'm just theoretically saying something stupid there. But what I mean is that people just appreciate Keith for what he's done, and they appreciate the fact that we've reported on this show, you've reported in your newspaper stuff that we've known is true, and I think that's we've all been vindicated this last 48 hours.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think a lot of the criticism that comes everybody's way on this panel, like I said before, is really, really unjust. I think particularly two guys below us, Mitch, got to know you really well last year. knows a lot of people. Like, people think, oh, he's just some dentist from the Middle East and all this kind of thing. But the bloke's got unbelievable contacts. Like, honestly, I would die for your contacts book, mate. I really would.
He's a drunken dentist from the Middle East.
And like in Hasty, like I speak to Keith every day. Hasty, we speak virtually daily, at least every couple of days. And again, the people who give you stick, and it really hurt this week as well. It was mentioned by Steve, but people criticising you with regards your charitable donations, charitable work, etc. It's quite incredible. It does make me question like the mentality of some people in our fan base at times. Social media is a disgrace. It is a disgrace that some people are allowed to say things and go on the way they are with no recourse. There's nothing comes back at them. They can. I can take it because I've always got always got fallbacks. I kind of have a stand in almost just being a journalist. But you guys, almost, if you say something and it's absolute fact, people will doubt you till the cows come home. And the fact is, you've got a track record now. Everybody sitting here on this panel has got a real track record of being right consistently when it comes to Newcastle United takeovers. And I just hope, if anything, if I get this message to people, any doubters out there, is start believing Hasty, start believing Mitchell, always believe Wraith, trust Keith, trust everybody, because they're lads who really, really know what they're talking about. And what I would say, like, one of the best things about this takeover process is just finding these guys. You guys all sitting here. Obviously, I knew Steve. I've known Steve through the boxing scene for years previous to this. But getting to know you other three guys on this panel, we've built real friendships. And I think it's a really, really positive thing for me to come out of this 13, 14 months of absolute madness, is to say that I genuinely look at everybody on this panel and class you as mates. And that's one thing that I really do think is a massive positive. Sorry, everybody. Probably not what you want to hear from us, all this soppy crap. But honestly, I genuinely feel it. I think we've all worked for the right thing. We're all hearts in the right place. We all bleed black and white. We all want the same thing.
Yeah, 100%, mate. There's no doubt about that. And yeah, I mean, for me, it's been a roller coaster ride. But we just want that one final push now to get over the the line. And let's hope that that's what Keith's given them the bullets, and the club's loaded the gun, and now it's ready to sort things out. So any team news, early team news tonight, Liam? People will be watching. They'll be interested in that. Was there anything more before kickoff? We're only a few minutes away. 35 minutes away from finding out.
I'd heard little snippets that Willock was going to be back in the side today, and I think, look, if I'm going to choose a team today, it's going to be John Joe Shelby every day of the week. Any regular watchers of me on a Tuesday night will know me and John Joe Shelby are never going to get along. I would drop him, but he won't drop him, and I think it sounds like it's probably going to be Sean Longstaff. Look, I could be wrong in 35 minutes. I've been wrong before, but that seems to be the whisper going around at the moment, that it'll be Willock for Longstaff. I'm not really in favour of that. I think Sean Longstaff, although he was poor last time out, I think has been a breath of fresh air. I think he's much more energetic than the likes of a Jeff Hendrick. Never goes hiding, even if he gives the ball away or things don't work for him. So I would always keep him in the side. And what I would crucially do is, in this system that he plays, if you want somebody to sit a little bit deeper and play the ball through, that's exactly what Rafa Benitez started crafting Sean Longstaff into. Sean Longstaff probably throughout his youth career has been more suited to being this midfielder that he plays, a bit more get about the park, can score a goal, can get the end of things. But Benitez seen in him somebody who can sit in that pivot role and craft, and the ball goes from defence straight into him and onwards. So I think he can play that Shelby role no bother with some good coaching. Good coaching in Newcastle United at the moment don't tend to go hand in hand, of course, but I think I would persist with that. And look, there's a big disappointment. It doesn't sound like Matty Longstaff's anywhere near it again tonight. There is no genuine explanation for that. I've seen Steve Bruce quotes this week talking really positively about Longstaff, saying it's been a bump in the road for him and he'll come back from this and he's got a big part to play in Newcastle United. Absolute rubbish. He's got a big part to play in Newcastle United. Why is he not in the squad? It doesn't make any sense. But that's Steve Bruce for you. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Look, I hope my little snippets are wrong. I'd love to see Matty Longstaff involved tonight. I hope Sean Longstaff keeps his place in the side. But unfortunately, this is Steve Bruce's Newcastle United, and I think those are the kind of changes that get made. I kind of agree tonight that he maybe should stick with the system, even though they were absolutely dreadful the other day, just because of the way Leicester play. I would argue that keeping it to that sort of 5 at the back with the width might negate them slightly. Look, they're a very good side, arguably outside of Manchester City when Leicester are on form. There probably isn't another better side in the Premier League to watch. They are a really, really exciting side. So I think it's going to be really, really tough tonight. Really tough. It's one of those that are probably a pass scores, a 2-0 defeat. Do I think that might be what happens tonight? I don't know. I think you might see a little bit of a reaction from Newcastle after Sunday, because that was an abject performance. And I think there'll be a few people who've looked in the mirror this week, even though they feel like the job's almost done. I think you'll see a performance. Callum Wilson's desperate for goals. He's not happy with 10 goals. He wants more. I think he'd envisaged scoring a lot more this season, but injuries have obviously held him back. So I think you'll see players like him. Colin St. Maximin fancies it. Newcastle have got half a chance of getting a goal and get a goal and getting a game, then you never know. But if they turn up with the mindset of Sunday, they'll get a hiding tonight. But I kind of don't think that'll happen. I think we'll see a little bit of a bump for them, and hopefully just get a result, because I think one more point will probably do them. I think that would be a big blow for Fulham, who I think don't play on Monday night. I think if they see Newcastle United get something tonight, I think that would almost be final nail in the coffin stuff.
Yeah,
Can
go on, mate.
Can I just say something before you go, Liam? Because I know you're going off soon. You're getting sacked. But it's like Apprentice League. You were the big lads, and what happens is you do these 1 hour shows, and then when you build your muscles up, you come on for 2 hours. You know what I mean? And just beating you into it. But I've been scarred mentally since you were last down, because you came down and you know, there's something happened when you were down, and when you went away, I was like, yeah, my jaw dropped with something. I haven't been able to raise it with you, but you came down last time and we were talking about your book, and Liam's busy writing a book about the whole process. So Liam's doing a book about, you know, Steve and Mitch and Steve Hasty, and he's talking about the takeover and who he's met, and he's putting it all together. So all the stories he's known, because a lot of the stories Liam knows, he hasn't put out for whatever reason, but he knows everything. He knows the King trolls. He knows what's going on behind scenes and things. And there's a lot of stuff he shared. So he said this. He says, I'm like 2/3 of the way of the book, and he said, you know, I got it the way I thought was nearly ready to go, and then the ESL thing happened, which obviously changed everything. And then I rang him and said, come down, because I've got something for you, and that was the release of the competition action. And he said that's just added all the book together. And we sat talking, and I just said, all right. I said, so, you know, how far do you think it is now? He says, well, it's well on. And I says, all right. I said, so when will you bring it out? He says, well, I don't know. Just when it, you know, see what happens with this. And he looked at us, and we sat, and I looked away, and he just says, oh, it needs a happy ending. I looked at him. It's all right, stick your head out, Mr. Kennedy. Like, happy ending where I come from in Durham is like, you know, it's massage parlour talk. And I
was thinking like Disney. I was like Disney film happy ending. Not you, you dirty get.
I was thinking, where am I going to find a rubber glove? And I was thinking, of all the things you said, I mean, it was only a few weeks ago, Mr. Wraith came on again and said he was wanting to knock the back doors in. And then when I'm sat with you, 1-on-1, 2 minutes in the room, you say you want a happy ending. I'm thinking, not really what I wanted to hear in my own house with nobody else to help us out. So I was pleased to see you go, Liam, and I was a bit quiet when you went. That was what the reason was.
Happy endings, God. We'll have it all on this X-rated show on a Friday night, don't we? Liam, been an absolute pleasure, mate. It's 6:30, and I know you've got to get off and do some work, but thanks for coming on, mate. And I think the next time we should all reunite is when Amanda's on the pitch. That should be the next time we all reunite. But you take care, Liam.
Take care,
mate.
Lads. Take care, mate.
See you, mate.
Great to have Liam on, and as usual, I've got to cram everything into the last hour. So we need to quickly move on to something. Before that, though, please subscribe to the channel. Over 1,200 watching tonight. Some important things you can do: hit the thumb up. Cost you nothing. Just like the video. I think there's only 115 likes on the video. Over 1,200 of you watching. If you like the video, it does help us with the algorithms. hit the share button. Share it to your social media, your Twitter, your Facebook, wherever. Share it to Newcastle United related groups. Tell people that we've got a channel here which has got 7 shows a week, seven nights a week at the moment. And also join the comment section if you want to get a point across. I'll try and keep on top of them and comment. But hit the Newcastle Legends button on the screen just with your mouse. Just scroll over it and then just hit subscribe. That's it. If you want to make a donation, by all means do. Talking of donations, George Hayes, who has bought the last couple of T-shirts, has donated £100 towards the cat T-shirt. He's not worried about the T-shirt, he says. So that's George in Houston Toon Mag again. He's not bothered about that. David Harrison has bid £75 for the T-shirt. So, David, you're the highest bidder at the moment. Got another 45 minutes for that if anybody can beat him. Thanks to George Mitchell, who had bid £60, and Darryl Laycock, who bid £50. But David Harrison is up to £75. As I say, George Hayes has made another donation of £100.
I bid 70.
Wish me dad would stop spending me inheritance on bloody T-shirts, for God's sake.
I love it. But thanks,
man.
Dave Harrison at the moment, he's on there, £75, so he will stand to win it. But that takes us over the £5,000 mark for the food bank as well. So thanks very much for everybody donating. As I say, over the last 12 months, that is amazing. God, I've got to get these pictures out as well. And forgive me for not remembering names. I've got the photographs and now I can't remember those. But we did request last week for people to start sending in photographs of them wearing the cult T-shirt. So we'll have had 2 people who've taken us up on the offer. So there's one. And here's another. Big thank you to both of you who've purchased the T-shirts and sent your photos in. So yes, we have anybody else buy a T-shirt, send your photograph in, send it to me, Mitch, Keith, Steve on Twitter, send it in and we'll make you famous. We'll stick you on the show. But we always have regular slots on here, so here we go. Every week, Mitch picks his tune lookalike, and we've got 2 this week, actually. We've got the one that Mitch has picked and the one that I've picked that somebody sent us. So here we go. This is the one that Mitch has picked.
I think this is great. Can't remember the name of the lad that sent us it, but thank you, mate. And it's DeAndre Yedlin and Conor Benn, the boxer. And I think he's got a cracker there.
Yeah, that's it.
Brilliant.
Very, very, very good. But this one knocks it into a cocked hat.
I knew you'd do that this week, mate.
Leo Mitchell and Ray Winston in Sexy Beast. Now that is a doppelganger if ever I've seen one.
I've got 2 pool balls tucked in a sock that'll have a word with you when I get back to the UK.
That's Dubai for you.
Fantastic, good stuff. That's tune lookalike for this week. Steve, let's come to you on the next subject tonight, and that's Rafa Benitez. Amidst all of that last night, and all the news coming out, and all the tweets and stuff that people were dealing with, we also had Rafa Benitez come out at 6:30 on Sky, interviewed. Primarily just looking back at football and career and talking about various things. But what he said about Newcastle was very, very cryptic, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. And you know what I found fascinating? That he's still coaching the team from the kitchen. He's watching the games and he's doing it. He's doing what we do. He's doing exactly what we do. When we watch the match and then we sit down and we analyse it ourselves and, we're spotting the errors, we're spotting the mistakes, or we're spotting what we would have put in. And that for me showed, it showed a passion, showed an interest, it showed a desire, it showed everything about what we love about football, and he's got it in him as well. At the end of the day, he's a lover of football. He's a lover of the game, and more than likely a lover of Newcastle United because he's watching Newcastle games. If he was a Liverpool fan or a Valencia fan or whatever, any of the other clubs, he'd be watching their games, and he probably is. I mean, don't get us wrong. I'm not sort of trying to sort of cloud it in some sort of Geordie bubble or anything. But at the end of the day, he's saying he still watches Newcastle. He's still excited by what he sees. He's still interested in what he sees. He still wants to point out things to his coaching team, because that's what he does, isn't it? At the end of the day, they sit together, they analyze any game, and they'll look at formations and look what they could do better, and he tests them. And he did it with Colin Whittle and Bill and myself when he took us around the training ground. And he asks you questions afterwards. And anyone who has ever had the opportunity or would get the opportunity in the future, that's what you're going to end up with. If you ever get an invite from Rafa to watch a coaching session that he's put on, be prepared for the question and answer session. And it's very much a question, not an answer. You've got to have the answer ready. And then he'll collar you, you know. And it's fascinating that somebody so intense in the game and with such a love for the game and so high up in the game will ask you questions of what you've seen, and then he'll put you right. And that's the key bit. He'll put you right, because you don't know really. You know, you have I think maybe he could have moved slightly to the left or slightly right. But Rafa will tell you, no, did you not notice? And he'll tell you something completely off the wall, like something you've never, ever noticed. And then you go, aye, yeah, he's right. He's right. Of course he's right. You know, he's at the top of his game. He's up there with the best of the best in terms of coaches, in terms of managers. And that's what you get in interviews like that. You get the passion. And at the end of the day, as Newcastle fans, and everybody goes, oh, you know, Newcastle fans were deluded and all that. And that famous statement, you know, we just want a team that tries, you know, and that's all we want. We want people to put the effort in, and that's what he strives to do. The difference between him and us is that what he's striving to is way above, you know, because his expectations of people and footballers is so greater than ours. You know, we're happy with well, some of us are happy with like sort of, you know, 1 in 20 John Joe Shelby performances. And some managers are happy with that as well, by the way. But Rafa's not. Rafa's not interested in that. He's looking for consistency. He's looking for patterns. He's looking for people to follow instruction, and he's looking for trust. And I just love all that, mate. That for me is just superb, you know. And it's quite refreshing. And it's sort of like kind of therapeutic as well in a way, especially after what we've witnessed and what we've, you know, yes, it has been difficult because of COVID, and you know the fact that we haven't had the chance to have our opinion other than on shows like this. We haven't been able to sit in the pub and talk it over with your mates as you would have done, and you know, you're just relying on a, you know, WhatsApp or 140 character on Twitter or whatever. But it's just great to hear. It's great to see. And the man's still got the passion for the football club.
Yeah, massively has. Mitch, Rafa, again, you know, just every time he speaks, you hang on every word he says, don't you, really? And even though he's not our manager, and look, I know he's not universally a massive choice for Newcastle fans. I know, you know, there's probably a high percentage would like him. Say, I always see some negativity, and some people do not like to have, you know, didn't like his style of football. I still see it, and again, you know, people know that I was working with Rafa and his team in the years that he was at St James's Park. I still say that was because he was tied a little bit. Yeah, plays defensive at Liverpool, but he won things, and that's the difference. If the shackles are off and money's no object, and Rafa's in charge of player recruitment and has the chance to develop the youngsters and you know, the academy, etc., we're onto something massive when this takeover goes through. If Rafa Benitez comes in, believe you me, he will set it up for the future, and that's what these owners will want.
And that's exactly what I would like to see. I remember us three having a conversation with somebody on the buying side about managers not so long ago, and I was the only one that hesitantly who paused when we were asked about Rafa. And you two both were like, yeah, Rafa, yeah. And I was like, but with a caveat. And the caveat is you follow the project through, and you let him build a platform, and you let him build succession. So it's not just a one-shot deal. We know what we're getting with Rafa. We've seen it. We've all seen it. I understand that it's not everybody's cup of tea. But what we've seen under Bruce is the difference between Rafa's organisation and 30% of the possession, and Bruce's organised chaos and 30% of the possession. Some of the stuffings we've had, we wouldn't have had under Rafa. The goal difference would have been an advantage for us, not having to scramble it back by, scoring a couple of goals here and a couple of goals there when we weren't expected to, So for me, yes, I would have him back, but we need somebody prepared, not just to buy into his ideas, but also to encourage him to do that bit more, to look at the club top to bottom, so that he could evolve into a sporting director role for me. It wouldn't be director of football, it would be a sporting director. He'd be setting out the ethos of the entire club going forward. So how everything is done from top to bottom, left to right, full 360 assessment of what's going on in our football club.
Yeah,
we're at an interesting time as well in terms of regionally. Our academy has underperformed, particularly when you compare that academy to Middlesbrough and Sunderland. Middlesbrough are solidly in the Championship, but do you see them coming up anytime soon? Not really. They're stuck in the quicksand of the Championship. The Macnams have blown automatic promotion again, so they're on a wing and a prayer to get promoted to the Championship. They're in the third tier. Another year in the third tier, even with new ownership and whatever format that still is, and the people still don't know, by the way. Their academy is struggling, I understand. Not just for cash, but for day-to-day operations. We'll have an opportunity to cement ourselves as a regional power base of football for a long, long time to come, with new ownership, new direction, and somebody like Rafa in a position who can go root and branch and say, this all needs changed. And that's what I want to see coming in.
Yeah.
And I believe he would bring that if you just took the shackles off and said, right, Rafa, go do your thing. And I think he would also come with a pre-packaged succession manager as well. I think he would come with somebody who would then take over the day-to-day from him as he went upstairs. And I think that's the kind of thing that he's been preparing himself for when he first started using the word project many years ago. And I think that's what we need to see, is the project work out to its full.
Yeah, Keith, Rafa Benitez, he's clearly waiting. A lot of people, in the chat saying, is he going to go to Arsenal? Is he going to go to Spurs? Well, Arsenal have got a manager, and Spurs, who knows? They've gone with the big names. Maybe they'll go with somebody, maybe less known. But Rafa Benitez, it's quite clear since he returned from China that he is waiting to see what happens with this takeover, and if the takeover goes through, I would imagine he's going to be back at St James's Park.
I think he's the only choice. I always think if somebody gives you blood like he did, and you can't judge him on what he had, because he never got the money Bruce has had, and people can argue on about results. I've got to tell you that when Rafa put the team out he did against the likes of Man City, they didn't have the right to get the results they got, but they got them through pure organisation. And when we played this year against teams, if I name two, Brighton home and away, the cup matches against low league opposition, we looked diabolical. And Benitez, no matter who you gave him, you could have took 5 players out that squad. Benitez would have set the rest up better. And to talk about him in the same breath as Bruce is not just naive. It's a bit daft. It's a bit not worth the conversation or the effort. So to me, he's the only man, and we owe him. When he stayed with us after the Championship, and I think the fans had a lot to do with it on that last game. He stayed with us, he stuck with it, and he expected more. And to me, it became a battle of wits between him and Mike Ashley. And there could only ever be one winner. The man who owns it's always going to win that war. And Benitez went off, and people said he went for money, he went for this. No, he didn't. He went because of his pride. He went because he wanted to show that Rafa Benitez is the top 5 manager in the world, and he didn't want to be messed around or made a mug of. So he's the only man that could get this job. And if we didn't give him it, I think it would be sorely sorry. I would like to see if he got it. I'd like to see Keegan as director of football or ambassador. I think you might see, like a more commercial person directing football. But I would say Keegan is an ambassadorial role where he is recommending players to Rafa, and I think what Keegan would add to Rafa's integrity and Rafa's industrial nature is flair. I think Keegan would stick a Ginola in there and would stick, players like a Beardsley in that would I don't know, turn things and give you something special. And in fairness, I've sometimes questioned St Maxim's attitude this year and wonder like how much he wants it, and is he as focused and up for it as Wilson? But that lad, when he comes on, just gives you an extra yard. He gives you an extra something. He gives you extra choice. He gives you an extra belief that we can win this. And when St Maxim's on, he's got the ball and he's in the last 40 yards. I'd never rule him out doing something, dropping the shoulder and scoring. And it's special players that do that. And I think if Keegan was involved, met him loads of times, love the fella. I think the organisational skills, the hardest working manager in the Premier League would be Rafa Benitez, probably times 10. And then you put some Keegan knowledge and flair into it, and I just think you've got like sort of Newcastle mentality, because Benitez loves the club, loves the people, loves the project, and I think Keegan could just, I think I could imagine Keegan and Benitez having a cup of coffee downstairs with nobody about them, just both talking about football, and I think Keegan's so persuasive and he bleeds the cause. I think it would rub off, and I think that Keegan would maybe encourage Rafa to bring in more of a risk player, more of a fair player. And I agree with what you lads have said is I think if Benitez was given the money that the Saudis would give him, I think you'll see a totally different thing. I spoke to some Liverpool fans about him when he came, and I said, what will we get? And the Liverpool fans said, you'll definitely win something. And that's what they said to me. And we Newcastle fans who just want to compete. So if they turn around to you and say, well, what'll happen now is you'll win something. But I tell you what, it'll have to be poxy football before I wouldn't like it. If I can leave this earth winning something, I tell you something, it'll have to be pretty dull before I complain. Like, honestly, I mean, I remember jumping up and down at the Texaco Cup one midweek night in Newcastle, and I was legless for winning the Texaco Cup. You know what I mean? And I remember when we played Chelsea in that semi-final, and I was jumping around because we scored. Just because we actually scored at Wembley, it was like a relief because we were getting beat to nil most times. But put Benitez in. See, I'm a dreamer. I would like to see Shearer train the forwards. I would like to see an Alan Shearer train forward who shows people how to gouge and fight and push and Shearer gets a yard on anybody just because of his attitude. So I would like to see all that happen. I'd like to see Robert Lee in among them because I think he gets what we're about. But no, I would do that.
I think you'll see the likes of KK, Alan, as ambassadors. I think some of them will be keen to get involved, but I think you'll see Rafa as the manager, but I think you'll see other people who aren't as well known in positions such as director of football, etc. Yeah. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think Keegan as an ambassador, walking into a place and saying, I'm Kevin Keegan from Newcastle United. Imagine him sitting and trying to get a sponsor or him sitting, trying to, I just think, I'm not being funny, you couldn't get a better ambassador for our football club. And somebody said he is 70 now. He certainly won't want to be involved in the day-to-day running of football, no matter how much he probably says he does. He's got grandkids and that. I think I can see him doing like what Brian Robson did in those early days at Man United, and probably still is doing, flying out to Asia and Australia and wherever, and just doing that kind of role. I genuinely feel that's what will happen. We've got to crack on, lad.
You
do. Yeah. I think so, mate. People are saying Les Ferdinand will make a good director of football, Nick Ostavis. We know they've had involvement in places, but I genuinely think it's got to be people who come in and work with Rafa. We know, God bless him, Richard Green passed away now, who I worked with for 3 years with Rafa. Richard probably would have been a huge asset. Owen Brown, another one who is closely involved with Rafa. I feel that Owen will be involved in some way, shape, or form. I hope he is, because he knows football inside out. He's one of the most respected men in football. Let's see what happens. Anyway, we've got so much to go through. I've got to crack on. I'm going to go to another one of our regular slots. Once again, the inbox was inundated with tweets of the week. Some that Steve's been sent, some that I've been sent. So I'll start with mine, and then we'll hedge towards Steve Hastie's. So a few regular faces in this one. This was one from Stu Penman. This was on. Get this trending. Things more mobile than me. And there it is, a sloth. Obviously, he was keen to watch the. That was last weekend's game. Clearly, I love this one. This one went viral last weekend as well. There we go. It's the Steve Bruce with the hair of Angela Merkel. So well done to add visual satire with that one. That was. I don't know why that made me laugh, but it did. I just thought that was a wonderful tweet. So great stuff. There was this one, Jack Pie McDermott at the Pie Face. The amount of Sunderland fans in my mentions today, we could lose 15-0. It doesn't matter. We literally can't be relegated, so I couldn't care less. The only thing you are relevant for is bottling to Charlton on Netflix and forever living in Newcastle's shadow. That was from a Plymouth Argyle player. I love that. Brilliant stuff. Another good tweet. Darren Chink, who's been on the show many times, just dropping in, and he's also been interviewed on here. Put something up about fans last week, and he's I've upset all their NUFC football groups once again. Certain people issue threats. I'm easy to find. I'm 18 stone and bald. It's funny because when you actually see these people, they hide. Yes, Darren. Great stuff. I did make us chuckle as well. This one as well. We'll go. Stephen Briscoe. I'm proposing I go on the board of Ryanair. I'm a massive fan. They're cheap, but I don't agree with some of their practices. Oh, financially, I'm not giving them a carrot, and I want the deciding vote. I thought that was brilliant as well. Absolutely brilliant. Zara put this one up. My eldest has just sent me this. Apparently, I'm not allowed to call a cocktail Peeve Bruce. I can imagine these are creative differences that tore apart the Beatles. I love that. And this one was close to being tweet of the week. Jamie O'Hara, take Neymar and Mbappe out of the PSG team, and it's basically Spurs. Hashtag PSG, hashtag average. Then Gavin Spurs says, take Spurs out of Jamie O'Hara's CV, and he basically working in Witherspoons. I thought that was absolutely brilliant. That's what Twitter's there for. Good banter. Okay, on to Steve's. Steve had 5 as well. So Steve, here you go.
Yeah, this is Richard Masters answering questions regarding Newcastle, and it's the H. Sorry, lads, I'm still laughing at the previous ones. It's H from Line of Duty. I just thought, you know what, that's absolutely corking, absolutely brilliant. You know, the look on his face, and then
this one came in from. This one was India Willoughby. This one,
yes,
I just thought this was bizarre. You sent us this one pretty early on.
Yeah, she said, I'm not being bitter, speaking as a neutral, no grudge against Newcastle, but since they dropped the 4th bottom, there have been 7 goals in the last few minutes that have saved their goat. The other week, when Fulham got done by Arsenal, Newcastle drew with Spurs, etc. And then you look at their reply. That's called grit, determination, team spirit, and never say die attitude. To pass it off as jammy is disrespectful nonsense. We're not that great, but we're better than that.
I just found it bizarre that India Willoughby was getting stuck into Newcastle United. Bizarre. Exactly. It just shows you if she
is she a relation to Holly?
I'm not. No, I don't think so. No.
I just thought I'd ask, you know. Somebody will tell us she is now. This is David Foster, who says, I'm only applying for a ticket so I can tell Steve Bruce in person what a marvellous job he's done this season, honestly. And obviously that's in relation to the fact that we've got tickets now with 10,000 nearly going to be in St James's Park. And now we're all fighting for tickets, aren't we, Steve?
We are, yes. It took me 2.5 hours today to do that. Absolutely crazy. Kicked out of the queue time and time again.
Tell them that you wanted to go to a home game, apparently.
Yeah, I did. I did it all right. I just kept getting kicked out of the queue. I was in the queue, kept getting kicked out.
Exactly. There's a couple of ones here that are from reporters. Now, I just found these quite bizarre. Bearing in mind the Glazers have been in charge of Manchester United since 2005. And now we've got reporters, good reporters, but they're suddenly coming out with this. All of a sudden, in 2005, I mean, I'm testing my grade 2 CSE maths here again, but football fans have had enough. The Glazers have taken more than $1 billion in interest fees and dividends from Man United since 2005. Owners have the wealth, but fans have the voice. We may be experiencing a crucial phase in the game's history. I think the crucial phase for Man United fans was when they set up NUF fans, was it NUFC fans of NUFC United for Manchester or whatever it was called? That was the crucial phase, and none of them got behind it, And again, you've got a Manchester reporter here, Ollie Hogue. Will never condone violence in protest, but there was only one instigator of the demonstrations at Old Trafford on Sunday. It wasn't the Man United fans; it was the Glazer family. And you just feel like saying, you know what, Ollie? 2005, that's when they've been there. 2010, you could have carried on. 2011, 2012, you could have been putting articles up God knows how many times. But then you come out with that now because it's flavour of the month and you want to protect yourself because you know that you're going to get pelters from Man United fans if you don't. And that for me is disingenuous, I just find it nasty, that and condescending to Man United fans. That's the way I look at it.
No, I didn't get who sent this tweet, but this was doing the rounds. So this for me was tweet of the week. After what had happened down at Old Trafford last week, the Man United team to face Liverpool. #Glazers out in goal. Bloke with big flag at right back. In the centre, first centre half lad with a corner flag. Second centre half guy who skied the ball over the bar. Left back little ginger kid. Right hand side pissed up Paul. On the left lad on top of the net. And up front, Fat John, man with a red flare and 48-year-old who squeezed into his first ever shirt. I thought that was absolutely brilliant. So for me, that was definitely tweet of the week. Thanks to everybody who sent them in.
You know what, Steve? What was really ironic was that everybody went, "Oh, the game's been cancelled for this. The game's been postponed for that. It's for fans on the pitch. Blah blah blah." The truth be known, that the reason that the game apparently. So I was told the reason the game didn't take place was because those lads on the pitch nicked all the balls and they didn't have a sponsor's ball to play the match on. So at that point, when the EFL realised there was no sponsor's ball, we're not going to play the game. And you know what? That summed up corporate EPL.
That is an absolute classic. I didn't know that. Brilliant. Thanks everybody who sent in the tweet of the week. Staying with Steve Hasty, John from QTech has given us a very special prize to give away, Steve. So over to you. Tell us what's going on and how it's going to work.
Yes, John has put together a very special prize. It's a watch, right? Look, you see, Mitch, straight away, he went down, he come back up there. He's watch. He loves watches. This is a special watch. This is an NCSL watch, right? Branded watch. This watch is actually worth without that on, but this is a one-off, right? And it's got a little logo on the back, and it's got NCSL on the face. A beautiful timepiece. And what John's proposing to do is we've got a couple of events coming up. One in particular that we'll talk about in due time. But from now until the beginning of August, anyone who anyone who makes a donation via the virtual bucket will be their details will be noted, and they will be added into a draw, right? So if you put £5 in, the ticket's going to be £1. If you put £5 into the virtual bucket, you'll have 5 tickets. And we're going to do this all the way through until the beginning of August. And then at an event that John's proposing to put on, we can talk about tonight or we can talk about next week. At that event, John will then announce who the winner is and who's been successful in the raffle for that particular watch. A one-off watch that is worth well in excess of £400. Right?
And if I know John, I know where that watch is made, and I know who makes it. I think it's by a company called Undone, who are one of the best micro brands out there, and you'll be getting a very good quality piece of kit there.
Exactly. So for every £1 that you put into the virtual bucket from now until August, you will be given one ticket for every £1. So if you put a £5 in, you'll have 5. John keeps a record. We everything's audited. Everything's in it. It's in a shop order, if you like, and that will go forward. And then someone will be lucky enough to get that one-off watch.
And it'll be a nice. But seriously, that looks like it'll have quality written all over it.
It has got quality. We're talking about a watch that is worth well over 400 notes. Put it that way, 400 quid. That's what you would expect a watch of that quality to even start at, to be perfectly honest. Now, for me, this is a fantastic opportunity for a Newcastle fan to win something that's quite unique, a one-off watch. And this is the sort of generosity you get from Newcastle fans. This is the sort of thing that we've been talking about over the last hour and a half on the show. But virtual bucket. Make your donation. You'll be entered into the draw. Beginning of August, it'll be announced around about the 6th of August. It'll be announced who the lucky winner is and who the lucky is going to be of that beautiful timepiece.
Good stuff. So you know where to do. Donate to the virtual bucket. I put it up there earlier on. Team lineup tonight: Dubravka's in goal. Murphy, Emil Kraft, Federico Fernandez, Paul Dummett, Matt Ritchie, John Joe Shelby, Joe Willock, Miguel Almiron, Alan St. Maximin and Callum Wilson. There's your starting lineup. On the bench: Gillespie, Clark, Carroll, Joe Linton, Gale, Lewis, Hendrick, Manquillo and Sean Longstaff. So Sean Longstaff, the one to make way in the midfield for Willock. We'll talk about that in a second. I am going to be doing Match Day Live, so just to give everybody a heads up about that. Straight on after this, 7:30, separate link, which is now being tweeted out and is now available on my YouTube channel, Match Day Live, and Holly is going to be presenting that tonight. So I will be on it, but Holly will be presenting. All the people are taking a turn, so that should be good. So yeah, I'll try and get that up on the screen at some point. But yeah, Dubravka, Murphy, Emil Crafton, Federico Fernandez, Dummett, Ritchie, Shelby, Willock, Almiron, Alan St. Maximin and Callum Wilson. Thoughts on that team, Keith?
I'm just still rocking with that watch. I just can't believe, levels people go to. It's amazing, and it's always in good. People do things, and I can't believe that we're living in a week where people's had a proper Steve Hasty. It's like it's really boiled my piss, like it really has. And just on that, I'll tell you, I haven't told Steve Hasty this, but I've spoken to a lawyer this week, Steve, and I've had some lies spoken about me this week, suggesting that I've got letters off the club, and all I want is the guy's address because I want to take action. Me, I've had enough of people going around throwing bombs that they shouldn't really be throwing. And for that lad, I've got deep pockets, and we'll see how you get on in court, son, because you can. There's one thing about me: I won't lie to anybody, but I won't be lied about either. So you can put your shit out there, but just be ready. I'm coming after you. And in the same with you, Steve, if people are going around saying that you're doing things wrong at food banks, you're seeing the kind of money it's raising here, £5,000 raised by normal lads off the street. And then the bloke sees that the bucket's been dying off a bit and decides to go and get a £400 watch. And then he puts like our brand on it. I've got to say, I'm just absolutely blown away. The strength of good people in this club are phenomenal. If we can get owners and the kind of funding that allows us to compete, we can't just compete. We can smash it, but we can do it and have a lot of fun. You know what I mean? Because it's a great fan base and it's coming together. I think it come together 2 days ago, and I've just got to say that what you do, you shouldn't get any criticism. You know, I've sat back and watched, and you know, when I first watched this, I thought, well, they must be bad guys because people always give them a stick, and now I've got the T-shirt. You know what I mean? And I know what it feels like, but with me, I feel it's a bit of a compliment because people are having a pop at you. But that watch, seriously, John, what you've done is just it's mind-boggling. A £400 watch, and you can see its quality. And have it to commemorate something, you know, this is a passing phase of NCSL pushing a bit of legal advice to get a takeover, but you know it'll be worth having for years to come. I forgot the question because I'm just
starting lineup. There you go, starting lineup. Quick assessment of that because we've still got a bit to go through. What's your thoughts on that, Keith?
I just take Shelby out and put Matty in or something like that, or put John in. But I think Joe Willock had to come back in, and the big no for me is number 17, Crafter. You know, I wouldn't play him. I just he's not. I think he's got a mistake in him, and that could be enough. It's going to be a tough game, but I mean the forward lines. You know what you would pick. I think it's 90% there. The team.
Steve Hasty.
I'm surprised at Kraft coming in for Clark, and I saw criticism there of Clark, but I thought Clark and Fernandez is a better combination than Kraft and Fernandez, to be perfectly honest, and safer. So that surprised me. The rest of the team, it doesn't surprise me because we knew he wouldn't drop Shelby. So that meant that Matty was going to be the one if Joe Willock came back in, and I think Joe Willock was guaranteed to come back in. So that's my assessment, Steve.
Yeah. We'll focus a little bit more on it in a minute. Mitch, just first feelings on that team?
Similar, really. The two I look at there is Kraft and Shelby and think we could have better than that in there.
Yeah.
Kraft is the defensive version of Joe Linton, where you talk about square pegs and round holes and you pick him up and he's a pentagon. You just don't know what to do with him, you know. Because he seems to be neither a right back nor a centre back. And so falls between the two stools, and at times can look okay, but at other times just looks lost, and that's a worry for me, particularly with Vardy.
Yes.
Yeah, I would agree. That is a big problem. Okay, I'll take that off, and don't forget Matchday Live. You can join us at 7:30 for that. Right, John from qtechshop.co.uk has again decided to do another one of his weekly questions that he poses you. You have to get all the answers, put them all together, and then you win a prize at the end of it if you're the first person to give the correct answer in the chat. So he's giving away an NUFC Matters collection. You get 1, 2, 3 T-shirts. You get a hoodie. And you get, I think you get a cup. I'm not sure if you get 1 or 2 or 3, but I'll double check that with John. Maybe you get 3 for the family. Three cups, we'll say, and four tops. So all you have to do to enter is get your answers ready over the next 4 weeks, and then give the answer to the question in the chat for a chance to win. So here is the first clue.
Oh, wow.
That's it. Roland's Gill. That's your first clue. So if you've got an answer to that, but just write it down. Keep it somewhere safe. I will try and remember to go through them all before we do the final question next time. But yeah, that is your first clue. Roland's Gill. So write that down, and we'll have another one next Friday. Okay, another one of our regular slots, and it's Julie's favourite. Yep, Troll of the Week. Again, been a few, but I've narrowed it down to 2. And first one is this one. Thanks, Connor. Obviously not you, Mong. I haven't been called a Mong since I was at school, mate. But thanks to NUFC, Connor, for that. That was basically just when I asked the question about Mike Ashley. Do we all love Mike Ashley now? It's what you call a hypothetical question, Connor. You might have to search for that on your dictionary. Hypothetical. I wasn't being serious. It was a hint of sarcasm, Connor. So yeah, and use of that word. It's not a nice word. It's nearly as bad as the C word in my house. That one. So don't use that. I try not to encourage anyone to use that word. Please don't use it again. And Rob, now this one was sent to, by Steve to me. This was a great one. Yeah, who did it better? Said I'm Rob M. And then Michael Thompson came up with a rather well-educated answer. Looked good till I seen that ball bag, Steve Wraith. And then he emphasises it. Effing ball bag. So big thanks to Rob for posting that well used photo of me as a vicar, and thanks to Michael Thompson for the ball bag reference. That was original. Ball bag, you see, that's an original way of trolling somebody. So thanks for that. That is the troll of the week for this week. Now, as always, we have Andre, who is our Toon Stato, to give us his rundown on the opponents, Leicester City, this weekend.
Hello, amigos. It's a bank holiday in Bulgaria today, so I changed a bit the background, as you can see. Another Friday night game today against Leicester, the fourth Friday game this season. For reference, between 2010 and 2020, in a 10-year period, Newcastle played only 3 Friday games. The Friday balance this season is 1 win, 1 draw, 1 defeat. The overall balance against Leicester in the Premier League years, and only in the Premier League, it's pretty even. 11 Newcastle wins, 11 Leicester City wins, and only 5 draws. Looking at the last 10 games only though, Leicester have won 8 of them and Newcastle have won 2. No draws since the championship season 2009-2010. Talking about goal scorers, James Maddison has scored 3 in his last 4 games against Newcastle. Jamie Vardy is the top scorer among the current players with 5. While Jose Perez is a curious case. He has 4 goals in total, including 3 winners, all scored as a Newcastle player, 2 winners for Newcastle, and 1 winner for Leicester, that famous own goal that he scored in December 17 at St. James's Park. Talking about peculiar stats, Callum Wilson has 10 goals so far in the Premier League, but none of them scored in the first half, while Leicester are the penalty kings in the Premier League. They have 10 penalties, however, no penalty awarded to them in 2021. Let's see what happens tonight. Away the lads.
Wow. Great stuff, that. Great stuff. And a nice backdrop as well, which is what I said to him when he sent us that video. Fantastic. Makes you jealous, doesn't it? That's where you want to be. Apart from Mitch, of course, who's pretty sweltering as always. But good stuff, Mitch. I still think Newcastle are going to get beat tonight. I'm not confident at all. I don't, despite the lineup. Well, when I've seen the lineup now, we're crafting it. I'm even more convinced we're going to get beat. 2-0 is what I predicted last night. I'm probably going to, I think 3-0 is what I'll take. I'd love to see a draw. I can't see it. But yeah, what's your feelings, Mitch?
I was hoping for a reaction from the Arsenal game because we just didn't show up. I must admit, before I seen that team, I was leaning towards a Desmond after. I was thinking we could get 2-2. But frankly, having seen that lineup, I cannot see we're winning tonight. At all. And I cannot see we're scraping a draw either. I worry greatly about Vardy up against Kraft in particular. Which is sad really to single a player out. I don't like doing that. But the minute you see him shoehorned into this back three, where he's never looked comfortable for me, and they've got a striker it's the classic Newcastle thing. They've got a striker who's a little bit out of form, and he's not scored. And the last few games look like he couldn't hit a cow's arse with a banjo. And you can guarantee he'll get one against us tonight. We're the perennial problem solvers for strikers, you know. Yeah, if your striker's not scored any in 6 games and you've got a game coming up against Newcastle, you guarantee you'll get one against us. So I suspect we'll probably get beat 2-1.
Okay, Steve Hasty.
You look at the Arsenal game and you go 1-0 down after less than 5 minutes, and then nothing from the bench, nothing from the touchline, from the dugout. And you realise that we actually don't have a plan B. We don't have a way of being able to combat going 1-0 down in the manner that we did on Sunday, and we roll over. And it took the manager and his coaching staff probably 35 minutes to realise we were 1-0 down. And for me, it was shocking. There was no changes made. There was no change in formation. There was no change in style. There was no emphasis. And we played so deep. It was as though we were practicing last Sunday for playing against Vardy tonight, because we know that he can get behind our defence. And the whole thing just baffles me. When you go 1-0 down, you expect to see, you give it 15, 20 to see whether or not you can regroup, whether the team can react. And none of that happened on Sunday. None of it. And then you would expect the manager to then go, right, hang on, lads, we need to be another 10, 15 yards further up. We need to play a little bit wider. We need to stretch them. We need to do this. We need to do that. We need to support the striker a little bit more. We need the wing backs to push on. We're 1-0 down. We need the wing backs to push on, and the central midfielders to either play a little bit tighter, or we need the central defenders to play a little bit more wide, because we're playing against one striker, for God's sake, and we've got 5 at the back. None of that happened. And tonight's going to be a repeat, except we're going to start from 10 yards further back again, because Vardy's playing. And Vardy's not the man who's going to do it. It's going to be Iheanacho that probably do it. The striker on form in the Premier League, who a bloke who, as Mitch would say, kind of hit the banjo. He's like, he is suddenly turned into like a striker who. And strikers do this, by the way. They go into a sequence, they go into a formation, and they go into an ability to just whatever they hit goes in the back of the net. And I'm worried about tonight. I think we're looking at, if we'll be lucky if we can manage 3-0 defeat. That's the way I'm looking at it. And straight away, somebody just popped that up as well. And I'm exactly the same mentality.
Yeah, okay. Come to you, Keith, as well. Just prediction.
I'm just going to be quick, because I promised people I'd give them an update on when the case will run.
You did, yeah. Do that, and then I want to go through the button, and I'll leave the last word to you. So, if you give us a prediction.
After Sunday, I think we lost the plot. I think we'll beat Sheffield United. I don't think the teams are going to get the points. I think we'll get beat 2-0 tonight.
Right, okay. Joe Walker, big thanks to you, mate. As always, our Tunes tipster has sent his regular email in, and he says, unsurprisingly, Newcastle are rank outsiders for tonight's trip to Leicester. Odds are as short as 4-11 for the Foxes. Big as 15-2 for the Magpies, and the draw comes in at 15-4. Goals are expected, with odds of 8-11 for over 2.5 match goals. 1-3 if you fancy over 0.5 first half goals, and 13-2 if you fancy Leicester at 2-0. 40-1 if you fancy Newcastle by the same score. Tells us all we need to know. Vardy, favourite to score anytime at 4-7. Jose Perez, 7-5. Callum Wilson is the favourite Toon player to score, as you'd expect, at 13-5, with both Carroll and Gale being more fancied to score than Joe Linton. Miggy and ASM are around 5-1. Don't forget Clark at 14s. The best we can hope for is a double chance of Newcastle, or the draw at 2-1, or 11-4 to win either half. 9-1 to score a penalty. Never chase your losses and gamble safely. Cheers, Joe. Thank you for that, Joe. Great stuff as always. Keithan, last 6 or 7 minutes, we'll hand over to you.
Just quickly say that I want to do this for all the fans who want the takeover. And please, what I'm going to say to you now, I don't want you to come back and say Keith said, because all I've done today is I've had a meeting with the competition QC and said, can you talk us through what will happen next? Because I've done these things before, but I just wanted to confirm his guesstimate of timeline. These are guesstimates and things can change. But at the moment, the claim has been issued. So that's where we are at the moment. They've issued a claim statement. The next thing that will happen, I think in the next 7 to 10 days, there'll be some directions come on the same website. So if you put a trigger on that website, it'll tell you Liam's going to write this up tomorrow. So hopefully if you read Liam's article tomorrow, it'll tell you what to do. But the next thing that's going to happen is a case management conference. That's taken with both sides and to discuss things like the directions of how the hearing's going to work. That'll be with the club and the EPL. And that that meeting is a public matter. And you'd be surprised to know that if fans want to see that debate, it should be available online. I'm sure you'll crash it because I can see 30,000 Newcastle fans are going on it. But the website that it's on, it'll be announcing Liam's article tomorrow, hopefully, and it'll be. You just need to update it every few days. Fans will go on a live stream. If you said to me what it'll be on, it'll probably be something like YouTube. The first decision they'll have to decide is whether they want to expedite the case, which is obviously speed it up, and if they do that, they're going to go to fast track. At the moment, if NCSL had run the case, we were going to go to fast track to cap costs and to get the thing done quickly. And back in the last year, we were under the impression that we could fast track and get through for Christmas because there was very little in the courts. There's still not very much in the courts at the moment. So things are good from that point. When people are saying this will run for years, that's just scaremongering and anti-takeover talk. Once they decide they expedite it, or if they're just going to run a full case, that'll determine the months it's going to take, which I'll come on to. The club's QC is not Nick DeMarco and not Shahid Fatima because they're working on the arbitration case under a totally different law firm. That's under Denman's Middle East, and this one's under a different law firm from London. But their QC works out the same chambers in London, the same stable, the same build, the same company as Robert O'Donoghue. And he's a guy called Danny Jowell, and he's a top QC. He's a competition expert and he's very good. I've spoken to him, been on Zooms with him. He's a really good guy. If the case goes to fast track, it obviously happens quicker, and you would look to get the case heard and completed in its fullness in 3 to 4 months. If it goes to full case, it would take more like 6 months. The difference with full case and fast track is you'll get more disclosure on full case. And you've got to remember, disclosure is usually halfway through the case. So if this goes to a fast track case and it's 3 to 4 months, it tells you you're going to be a disclosure in 6 to 8 weeks. If it goes to a full-blown competition case, which will get you more, but it takes longer, 6 months, that's going to be about 3 months when you get the disclosure. The reason the disclosure is important is because that's where you ask the questions. Now, this case is about whether people acted fairly. If I put that into your normal kind of thing, imagine 6 birds going for a Miss World competition, and one of them hides the mascara. So she goes in and she goes out and she's all done up nice, and all the makeup's been hidden. That's not very fair because they're all going out with no makeup on, and that's really what the club are doing. What the club is saying is that, or the big 6, if you want to call them, what they're saying is. Yeah, Burnley, you can come in because you're going to lose 40 million when you get took over. And yes, who's bothered about who Crystal Palace's owners are? They're not worried. But Newcastle come along and they've got 10 times the wealth of the richest club being Man City. If Man City's worth 28 million, Piff's more 350 billion. 28 billion versus 350. So they're trying to stop Newcastle getting at the market. At the point when I predict or hope or would... I just don't see how they're going to get through this disclosure state. So if it's a fast track, 6 to 8 weeks, and if it's a full case, 3 months. And they ask for disclosure, and typically what they do is you come to me and I come to you and I give you a list of questions. I'll give you a list of searches to do. Now, if you do this on your computer, and if you were trying to find Steve Wraith and you type in NUFC Matters, you'll get every time that computer on Google has got the term NUFC Matters. But what they do is they decide who's fighting who, and they go to Masters and Hoffman and the EPL and everybody else, and they say, right, we want to see, they agree these words, and you both allowed so many, and in layman's terms, the simplest way I can put it is, they'll say, right, I want to see every time the word Saudi is mentioned. I also want to see every time the word Ashley is mentioned, and I want to see PCP, I want to see Consortium, and I want to see Takeover. And I want to say Newcastle. And then you give them 6 words, they put them into the machines, but they go and do Hoffman's WhatsApp account, his texts, his emails, his letters. And by law, you've got to put everything. You've got to put your notes, your meet and take and everything. Every single thing. Last time you farted, it's got to be there. It's got to be bottled, brought in and say, that's my fart. And you're not allowed to give it out. If you keep it out, it's illegal. It's breaking the law. Contempt of court. It's a serious matter. So nobody on disclosure, unless they're stupid, cheats it. And the reason you don't is because if I know that I've got a document here and I know there's 2 words on it, and I ask on your search for them 2 words, you don't produce that document, I go, what about this one? And I can prove foul play. And so when you do disclosure, it gets scanned. And to show you the size of this exercise, when I did it, I was involved in a case with £50 million of the legal fees. I travelled to Cape Town in South Africa, and just to check the disclosure documents, I saved 400,000 by working with South African paralegals and getting them to check the documents versus doing it over here, because they were shorter work and they were just so much more competitive. But that's the kind of exercise you're talking about. You're talking about so many million documents, and then the computer narrows them down, and then they get checked, and then your legal team get the documents passed over, and your team's got to scan through all those documents. There's enough evidence now, I think, to win the case. And with the Prime Minister saying it's a cartel, that is the same as saying this is an illegal act going on in British football. So I'm sure we will win. I'm no doubt at all we'll win this case. I think it's more a case of when. And if you said make a prediction, I would think at disclosure, you can get documents where your QC looks at it and says, guys, you're going to lose this. I'd go and talk to DeMarco if I was you, and start settling the case or start working you out of it. If it goes to full case, from what I've seen and heard, and speaking to our QC today, he said, they've got all your points in that action, and I just don't see them winning them. So that's before you go to disclosure. So will it run? I doubt it. If it does, car crash.
Billy Trey says Keith's a breath of fresh air until he brings farts into the equation. I do like it. Great analogy, by the way. Yeah, somebody asking about Youssef. You're obviously playing up, catch up. We discussed this earlier in the programme. No, we don't rate what he said, mate, at all. You need to watch the full show, play a bit of catch up, and you'll see exactly what Keith said about him. But been a fantastic show. Thanks to Liam for popping on as well for an hour. It was greatly appreciated as well. Big thank you to Dave Harrison. He's the winner of the Troll of the Week t-shirt, £75. He will contact Steve Hasty and make arrangements with the food bank, which is great. And a big thank you again to George from Houston, who's donated another £100. So £175 in total from that t-shirt takes us well over the £5,000 mark for the food bank. Brilliant. I couldn't pass without mentioning this, which was on NUFC.com. Must be over the moon. I wish they'd put NUFCmatters.com on that notice about buying t-shirts and stuff, but they didn't. Great bit of advertising by Newcastle United Football Club. That has to have been deliberate. It has to have been. And don't forget, I've got 3 minutes break now, and then I'm jumping onto the Matchday Live coverage. But I'm pleased to say Holly Blades, young Holly, has taken the bull by the horns, and she is going to present it tonight. I'm going to be one of the crowd sitting watching the match tonight. So just hit the other link and join us for Matchday Live. We talk you through the game, and should be interesting anyway. We'll listen to what everybody's got to say, and we will be back over the weekend. Tomorrow afternoon, we're going to do a worldwide show. Join me and the gang as we discuss tonight's game. And then Sunday, we're going to be back with a 5-minute rant as well. So plenty of content over the weekend to keep you all entertained. But for now, Keith, Steve Hasty and Mitch, thanks. Have a great weekend, lads. And as I always said, don't let the football spoil it. And good luck to Billy Joe Saunders. He's going to need it against Canelo. But have a good weekend, lads. Take care.
Cheers, everyone.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back.